Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, all. Thank you very much. Just want to say a few words here before that first bell rings and the tardy bell rings. I don't want you late for class. But I know many of you here today, today is the first day of school. And for those of you in kindergarten or starting middle or high school, it's your first day in a new school. So let's understandable, it's a little bit understandable if you're nervous, and I get that. I imagine there are some seniors out there who are feeling pretty good right now. This is going to be your best year. With just one more year to go, and no matter what grade you're in, some of you are probably wishing it was still summer, and I'm there with you. You could have stayed in bed just a little bit longer this morning. So I know it's that so some of you are still trying to adjust, and I get it. I totally understand it, to being back at school. But what I'm here today because I have something important to discuss with you. I'm here because I want to talk to you about your education and what's expected of you in this new school year. And let me tell you, there is a lot of expectations. Your teacher has a lot of expectations. Your administration staff has a lot of expectations. Your district has a lot of expectations. The nation has a lot of expectations. Now, I've given a lot of speeches about education over the last 3 years. And I've talked about responsibility a lot. I talked about teachers' responsibility for inspiring students and pushing you to learn. I talked about your parents' responsibility for making sure you stay on track and you get your homework done and don't spend every waking hour in front of the TV or with that newest game console, which I know right now many of you are probably playing Madden. I totally understand that. I've talked a lot about your government's responsibility for setting high standards and supporting teachers and principals and turning around schools that aren't working, where students aren't getting the opportunities they deserve. But at the end of the day, we can have the most dedicated teachers, the most supportive parents, the best schools in the world, and none of it will make a difference or will it matter unless all of you fulfill your responsibilities. Unless you show up to these schools, unless you pay attention to these teachers, unless you listen to your parents and grandparents and other adults, and put in the hard work it takes to succeed. And that's what I want to focus on here today. The responsibility each of you has for your education. And that's each and every one of us in this room this morning. That's our students here. That's the administration, that's the principals, and even, and this is a little personal, close to me, it's even to the aides. Everyone plays an important role in a child's education. I want to start with the responsibility you have to yourself. Every single one of you has something that you're good at. Every single one of you has something to offer, and you have a responsibility to yourself to discover what it is. That's the opportunity education can provide. Maybe you could be a great writer, maybe even good enough to write a book or articles in a newspaper. But you might not know that until you write that English paper, the English class paper that's assigned to you. Maybe you could be an inventor or a innovator, maybe even good enough to come up with the next iPhone or the next medicine or vaccine. But you may not know you're good at that until you do your science project. Maybe you could be a mayor or a senator or a Supreme Court justice. But you might not know that until you join student government or the debate team. And no matter what you do with your life, I guarantee you that you'll need an education to do it. You want to be a doctor or a teacher or a police officer? You want to be a nurse or an architect, a lawyer, or a member of our military actually. You're going to need a good education. For every single one of these careers, you cannot drop out of school and just drop into a good job. You've got to train for it and work for it and learn for it. And this is what is just important for your own life and your own future. What you make of education will decide nothing less than the future of this country. The future of America depends on you. What you're learning in school today will determine whether we as a nation can meet our greatest challenges in the future. And I want you to think about this. Many of you guys may know or may not know that I've got a close association to the space program. Love it dearly. I've had a chance to meet several of the astronauts who've flown in space. And one of my greatest concerns I have, many of these astronauts I know are retired now, moved on to do other great things, but they're not flying in space any longer. And the question I have is, who's going to take their place? It's the boys and girls out here this morning. It's the boys and girls out here this morning that will take their place. Only if you get a good education, only if you work hard. And I will tell you a story about one of the astronauts that I think shows people a lot about education. And I'll tell you her name when we get through the story here. But in high school, in suburban Virginia, she was in a science class. And two of the boys in that science class told her that she didn't have the grades to make it into MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Well, she took them up on that, and she worked hard, and she studied hard, she got good grades, and she ended up going to MIT. During her time at MIT, she had a chance to meet an astronaut, the first woman astronaut in space, first American woman astronaut in space, Sally Ride. And at the end of that meeting there at MIT, she said to herself, I can do that job. And 25 years later, Cady Coleman retired from the United States space program with 3 flights to her credit. 2 shuttle flights and a flight to the International Space Station. So don't let anybody tell you you can't accomplish dreams and you can do that with hard work. You'll need the knowledge and problem-solving skills you learn in science, just like Cady did, and math to cure diseases like cancer and AIDS, and develop new energy technologies and protect our environment. You'll need the insights and critical thinking skills you gain in history and social studies to fight poverty, homelessness, crime, discrimination, and make our nation more fair and more free. You'll need a creativity and integrity you developed in all your classes to build new companies that will create new jobs and boost our economy. We need every single one of you to develop your talents and your skills and your intellect so that you can help us, folks, and I'm glad to say I'm joining that club, solve our most difficult problems. If you don't do that, if you quit on school, you're not just quitting on yourself, you're quitting on your country. Now, I know it's not always easy to do well in school. I know a lot of you have challenges in your lives right now that can make it hard to focus on your schoolwork. I get it. I know what it's like. I know what that is like. But I'm here to tell you, you've got to stay focused on school. You got to stay focused on school. You know, and personally, I'll tell you this. I came from a divided family. My parents split up when divorce was that cool in our country. And so my parents were faced with many challenges, and I had 2 parents, 2 different homes I was dealing with. Later on, I ended up with a stepmom, but I made it. Despite all, and those were some tough times. Despite all, I made it. I made it through hard work, perseverance, and dedication. And I'm here to tell you, don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. You know, maybe someone in your family has lost their job and there's not enough money to go around. Maybe you live in a neighborhood where you don't feel safe or have friends who are pressuring you to do things you know aren't right. But at the end of the day, the circumstances of your life, what you look like, where you come from, how much money you have, what you got going on at home, none of that is an excuse for neglecting your homework or having a bad attitude in school. And I will tell you, that's the number one thing that I see is sometimes attitude. Every morning when you come into school, every morning, you should have a positive attitude and that you're going to make the best of the day. And you can do it. There's no excuse for talking back to your teacher or cutting class or dropping out of school. There's no excuse for not trying. Where were you right doesn't have to determine where you'll end up. No one's written our destiny for you, because here in America, you write your own destiny. You make your own future. That's what young people like you are doing every day across America. You think about the many young people who every day have made such impactful points and statements in our life. Young people like Jasmine Perez from Roma, Texas. Jasmine didn't speak English. When she first started school, neither of her parents had gone to college. But she worked hard, earned good grades, and got a scholarship to Brown University. And is now in graduate school studying public health and are on her way to becoming Dr. Jasmine Perez. You know, there's so many different examples. There's Chantel Steve from Chicago, Illinois. Even when bouncing from foster home to foster home in the toughest neighborhoods in the city, she managed to get a job at a local healthcare center, start a program to keep young people out of gangs. She's on track to graduate high school now with honors and go on to college. You know, there's just so many examples of those people who have done such great things in our country, in our communities, and you can too. The main point I'm saying this morning as you start this new school year is not to give up and to do your very best. That's all your parents expect from you, and that's all your teachers expect from you, is the very best. And like I said earlier, I know in this room there are future astronauts, there are future doctors, there are future lawyers, there are future even congressmen. You know, and I'll end on this note, you want to know how I got interested so much in government? Was my government teacher in high school. Yeah, I'd always been attracted to politics and government. I have an opportunity to meet 3 U.S. presidents. That's pretty good, right? But it wasn't until Mr. Hickey back in Texas taught me what government is and how important it is to serve one's country and one's community. You know, we are given so much in our country. You are given the right to come to school. You have the freedom to come to school. In some countries, we don't have that freedom. And there's a saying, of much is given, much is required. So I'm asking and calling upon you today to make a commitment to serve your community and to serve your country. For by doing that, our country will be successful and will be a leader in the centuries that follow. I want to thank you all very much. I want to wish you all very well this school year. I know it's going to be a long one, but here we go and the journey has begun. Thank you all very much. Thank you.